Hello, this is Sean with T.C.A.T Board Gaming, and I am here with Josh. We are going to talk about Valor and Villainy Lludwik's Labyrinth. This is a cooperative deluxe edition game by James Van Niekerk. Can you tell us a little bit of an intro here, Josh, on what this game is about, some kind of a background? Because I think you had mentioned before that this was a standalone expansion. Is that correct?
That's correct, Sean. Yeah, so this Lludwik's Labyrinth is a sequel in the Valor and Villainy family. The original game came out in, I believe, 2021. It was called Valor and Villainy Minions of Mordak, and that game was a 1 to 5 player dungeon crawl with a 1 versus many theme. So one person was the overlord who played this sorcerer named Mordak. And our group, we've played it multiple times. The components are great. It's published by Skybound Tabletop. They're known for just deluxifying everything under the sun. And we found it wasn't really balanced really well. It was when Mordak would come out, he was just very punishing and overwhelming the heroes. So it would always end on a sour note, for them, that it was just not. It did not very fun because he comes out and he just obliterates them right off the bat. With Lludwik's Labyrinth, it's now a fully cooperative, so it eliminates that big aspect of having one person control the bad guy. So you have, in essence, a dungeon crawl, fully co-op, but component-wise, the new components are also fantastically great. And actually, all of the old stuff from the original game is compatible with the new stuff. So you actually have all the characters from the original game you can play in the sequel right off the bat without any problems. All of the bad guys from Lludwik's Labyrinth you can play in the original game. If you want to potentially make it easier, instead of having Mordak, you could have one of the other mini bosses from Lludwik's Labyrinth in the original game instead. But for this, what I really like as a co-op is it does prevent quarterbacking really well. There are a ton of mitigation strategies from other players that they can use in order to prevent somebody from just directing traffic and telling them exactly what they need to do because that person has mapped out 8 or 9 moves in advance. You have a ton of dice, so there's a lot of inherent randomization. So you're never going to know really what your dice rolls are going to be, whether you're going to pass a test or defeat an enemy. You have there are a bunch of cards that players can do on other players' turns to help them out or hinder them. Well, you wouldn't really want to hinder them. You could hinder the bad guy, but there are a lot of cards you can play to increase bonuses, add extra skills you can use whenever the bad guy activates, that kind of thing. So it really works to prevent one person from taking over like you do see in a lot of other co-ops.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit. So with most games that you run across, there's always like a mechanic or some kind of thing that draws you back into playing that game again. And I'm assuming the way you've talked about this game, you enjoy it. Is there something about like mechanic or something that draws you back into this game, something that sticks out in your mind that you truly enjoy, that brings you back to this thing?
Yeah, so first off, just looking at the box, the artwork is fantastic. It's very bright and colorful, which you don't see in a lot of your classic dungeon crawls like Hero Quest or Warhammer Quest. They're very dark. This is very, very bright, vibrant. The theme is hilarious. There's a lot of satire, a lot of puns. And the whole premise is that you're a group of heroes from an organization called the Order Without Borders, and you're actually celebrating the original game of defeating Mordak at a pizza party, and then this new guy shows up named Lludwik, who's this little imp in a giant mech suit. He bombs the pizza shop, steals Giuseppe the pizza baron, and goes down into his labyrinth via a portal. So you enter his dungeon to try to rescue a pizza baron. So the theme is very kind of funny, lighthearted. There are a lot of puns and satire. We unlocked a card at the end of this last one called the Rolling Stones. They were rocks you actually got, but they're called the Rolling Stones. So,
and then you're talking about RPG. That it's like a dungeon crawl. So does that mean that you're going to be leveling up the characters too?
Yeah. So that's a great point. This is the original game and Lludwik's Labyrinth are both true RPGs in a box. There is a defined procession. You have the heroes activate, cast spells, defeat minions, explore, collect treasure. Then you have a hero level up phase where all the heroes in game, they collect all their treasure, all their minions that they defeated, which gives them a certain amount of bounty. They use that to add experience. They can then upgrade new dice, add new skills, new action points. Then the villain activates, so new minions spawn, minions attack. The villain then levels up, so the big bad gets better, gets stronger, can activate more guys. And play continues like that over the course of the game of heroes activate, heroes level up. So again, your players are continually getting better. But this game as a co-op is actually a full legacy campaign as well. So there are 12 separate chapters, each with unlockable envelopes that add new mechanics, just like typical legacy games. The difference, though, is Valor and Villainy is fully replayable, is resettable, so no components are actually destroyed. And like other legacy games, and in a true RPG fashion, after each chapter you have a town phase, so you can take everything you unlocked in each chapter will give you a total number at the end, and that number determines how much you have to upgrade, like your base in the labyrinth. Like you have a little, it's called your base camp, where you typically start. So you can level that up and build up that, so we have more defenses there. You can also add, as part of the level up step, or the town phase, you can increase initial starting XP, so that at the next games, your heroes automatically start with a certain number of XP that they can use to add upgrades just in-game right off the bat. Or you can add, things like free scouting actions or equipment that you've unlocked in the game. You can choose to pay a certain amount of bounty into town phase to start with certain equipment and things like that. So it has the leveling up. It has two phases. There's a level up. There's a distinct level up phase in game, and a very distinct level up phase after the game in between sessions.
And you said you played this like a half a dozen times?
Not that many. I've played it. We've done the tutorial. We've played We've played Acts 1 and 2. So I played it 3 full times. With the first group, we played it with 4 players for the tutorial. I played 3 players for the Act 1, and then Act 2 was with 5 players. So we did with different player counts. It scales really well.
Is there a sweet spot, would you say? Because you played with different player counts. Is there did you enjoy playing 3-player more than the 5-player?
I don't know that I enjoyed it at a different player count. Since it scales so well, because when you scout and new minions drop, the tiles are always labeled by player count. So, if you have, 2 players and you drop a tile that says, on 4 or more, then you get 1 treasure and 2 minions. Well, you only have 2 players, so nothing would happen. So it scales pretty well, and I don't know that I would find any particular count better or worse, because the big bad scales based on the player count, the minions scale, so it really does vary dramatically. But I don't know that any one player count is punishingly more difficult than other player counts, because in typical co-ops, the more players you have, the more difficult it gets. They're usually much easier when you play with only 1 or 2 people in a co-op.
Yep.
Because you can usually get more activations before they activate or whatever. But in this case, I found it now scales really well.
Awesome. Is there any other thing that you can think of about this game that you found intriguing? I do see what you're saying, that the color is vibrant, the artwork is beautiful, the satire, just having the hero or the person you're trying to rescue as the heroes, right, is the pizza. What was it, the pizza?
Pizza Baron. Giuseppe the Pizza Baron.
Yeah, that's pretty comical.
He even has a mini in the game. He's got a cleaver in one hand and a pizza tray in the other, so and a hat, so no, the story is really good. You have, in typical legacy RPG styles, each act you've got a few paragraphs of flavor text, setting the tone as it goes through. So, we've had a lot of fun with it. It's funny because the first couple chapters the group said, well, this is way too easy. It's way too easy. And then Act 2 came around, and it was just punishingly difficult. We won by literally the last possible dice roll on the last possible activation before the clock would have run out. So, it's been a lot of fun so far. And I would say that it's listed for playtime as 25 minutes a player, which I would say if you have experienced players that know the rules, that's actually probably pretty accurate. Our game with 5, I had played it before, but the other 4 players were all brand new. So it took us about 3 hours for a 5-player game, which is probably a half hour more than you would normally have if you knew the rules. So I'd still say it wasn't egregiously. It does not overstay its welcome at all.
That's awesome. It's I just find that usually when you see the time for a game, it's usually not accurate.
You double it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or more, yeah. No, in this case, I found when we played the first time, we did, the 4-player tutorial, we did it in an hour and a half. We did a 3-player next game in like an hour and 20, it may have even been less than 25. I mean, 25 per player. I mean, you have, in typical campaign game fashion, there's a lot of setup time. So, I mean, that could be a negative, but that's prevalent in every big box campaign game. So it's nothing you can blame on this one, because in order to get what you need, there's always a lot of setup time. So
yeah, some worse than others.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and you can mitigate some of that somewhat by doing a bunch of prep work. You'll have, if you wanted to open the envelope or whatever beforehand, it'll tell you what cards to unlock, so you can kind of get a lot of that administrative secretary work done beforehand before you ever actually bring it out and open it up to play. And so then you don't have to sort through cards and that kind of thing, and then you can just kind of set up and play. And I did that this last time, and I think I probably saved 10 minutes at least of setup time by not having to unlock an envelope, read through the new stuff, dig out the new cards that were unlocked, add them to the various treasure decks, that kind of thing. All that was already done beforehand, so I think that helped too.
Gotcha. Well, I appreciate you sitting down and talking with me today about this game. That, once again, is the Valor and Villainy Lludwik's Labyrinth Deluxe Edition is what he has here. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.